My little brother in power, the truth stand taller than any tower. So if the world's mine, then it's ours. Come on.
Don't forget your time machine. Get it in, it's gonna make you strong. Get mine. Elevate day to day, cause you never stop. Keep going.
Yeah.
With time.
Alright.
This time.
Sometimes I be tripping cause I be on a mission. You look in my eyes, but you don't see my vision. So pardon my drive, excuse my ambition. Just wanna live a life that the wealthy are living. My project building, feeling like a prison. My head spinning like the fan on the ceiling. I need a break. Can you relate? Somebody take me to a place where I can elevate.
Don't forget your time machine. Get it in, it's gonna make you strong. Get mine. Elevate day to day, cause you never stop. Keep going. With time. This time.
But as a kid, you make you stronger, you know the phrase. And we done came a long way, but we okay. You got some people that you love and you hope you stay. You get to thinking about the past like those were the days. You get to missing what you lost cause it's not around. Don't look what you ain't got now, come and get you down. Life is too short like an open rap, but we gotta close the chapter. Life is funny, so let go some laughter.
Don't forget your time machine.
What's up, everybody? Today, we're going to talk about different throwback fighters of the past, but we also want to talk about throwback fighters of this era when we come right back. Welcome to another episode of Ring Walk Boxing Podcast. I am Bean, and today we are live Sunday, and I plan to do this every Sunday. So if you follow my different social media platforms, I'll be sharing my link. So just be following me, and I'll share it on TikTok, IG, just started a Twitter account. So if you follow me on Twitter, let other people know. We'll be trending there as well. And of course, on Facebook. So what I want to talk about today is a few different various things. So what I'm going to start off with is a few fights that we saw from last night. The up and coming star, Floyd Schofield, also known as Kid Austin, up and coming young gun. And I came across him on social media and on different interviews on YouTube. And of course, he's been known for calling out the big fish of the 135-pound division, Gervonta Tank Davis, who was very well established, a big star in boxing. And I myself personally am a fan of Tank Davis. So let's talk about the breakdowns of these two fighters. I don't see their fight happening anytime soon. I don't think so. I mean, stranger things have happened, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. I think that he would have to, speaking of Floyd Schofield, he would have to challenge the fighters like Ryan Garcia, Frank Martin, maybe even Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, maybe at some point. I don't think he's ready for Tank with somebody with so much power, and for him to be up and coming and still what you call quote unquote, he's still kind of green. You know, he's not as seasoned, so it would be a very, very dangerous step for him to just jump from where he's at right into a Tank Davis fight, if you see what I mean. But we saw him fight last night. The fighter Giron, who had a good chin, and from the looks of it, he had dropped Schofield later in the rounds, later in the fight. It didn't really look like he hurt him much, but maybe more so a flash knockdown. However, Gervonta Davis took cease at that moment and went on Twitter or one of his social medias and took aim and took shots at Kid Austin. Um, and it was kind of funny. It was kind of funny, y'all. But of course, Kid Austin went back at him, and they kind of went back and forth on their social media beef, you know. Um, so right now, like I said, Floyd is good from what I can see. Schofield, he's good. I believe he's under the Golden Boy umbrella with Oscar De La Hoya. So what a coincidence! He's with Oscar De La Hoya here, and then Tank Davis was under Floyd Mayweather over here. And at one point in time in the past, Floyd Mayweather and De La Hoya fought. So now you got their two proteges beefing with each other. And I think it's energy there, and especially for De La Hoya, who lost a close decision against uh, Floyd Mayweather. He probably wants to see his get back in the form of a younger fighter like Kid Austin. For him to beat Tank Davis would mean a lot for him because he would do something that he didn't get to do in his day and age in fighting. So let's talk about these different throwback fighters of my era. Well, not my era, but a lot of the younger guy era of today. All right, so one of my picks would be somebody like Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant is still moving up his ladder, and he already set a nice bar, being the fact that he fought two of the top guys that we want to see fight each other, which is none other than David Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez. Although Caleb Plant came up short, he did fight both Canelo and David Benavidez. And he's always wanting to fight somebody on that level who is a big name. At one point, when the Charlo brothers were heavy in the rotation, he was calling out Charlo, one of the Charlo twins. So David Benavidez, I mean, not David Benavidez, but Caleb Plant is definitely the definition of a throwback fighter. I want you to also, in the chat room, to name your throwback fighter of this era. So we have Caleb Plant, and I'm not putting it in any type of particular order. I'm just dropping names. So Caleb Plant he's one of them. Another throwback fighter, George Ferocious Kambosos out of Australia. We saw him fight Devin Haney twice. We also saw him fight Lomachenko. So he's accustomed to fighting the best of the best. He even went on social media and replied to a person I was talking to on FB. And Kambosos replied, and it was cool to see him reply. He was basically saying that he believes in fighting the best fighters at their prime age. So respect to George Kambosos, another throwback fighter of this era. Another throwback fighter stepping up to the heavyweight division would be none other than Joseph Spidey Parker. Joseph Parker is a fighter who will fight anyone. You know, back in the day, he had a very, very tough war with Dillian White, and it was a back and forth, toe-to-toe action fight. And Dillian White was able to win the fight, but it was a tight fight. Another tight fight with Joseph Parker is when he fought Andy the Destroyer Ruiz. Many go back and forth. You'll get 50% of people saying Andy Ruiz did enough to win the fight, but then you got another 50% that'll say uh, the right man won, which was Joseph Parker. But it was one of those fights that you couldn't call a robbery because it could have went either way. It was a tight fight. Um, I wouldn't mind seeing them run it back. However, that would be more of a stay busy fight for Andy Ruiz, as I feel that the momentum is more on the side of Joseph Parker right now, coming off the wins of Deontay Wilder and defeating Zilly Big Bang Zhang. Those two fights put him back in contention in the upper echelon of the heavyweight division. And like I said, he's definitely a throwback fighter. I made a post about Joseph Parker speaking on those terms. You know what I'm saying? So I would like to take a little time to connect with the people that follow me on social media, because I'm the type of person that likes to connect with people and respond to people. So I'm gonna go back to my post real quick here that I posted on FB. All right. So what I was saying was that Joseph Parker has three losses, and like many heavyweights in this era and in my era, you had losses. Mike Tyson had a few losses. Evander Holyfield had a few losses. Lennox Lewis had two losses. Muhammad Ali, before my time, had losses. Um, Larry Holmes had losses. So you have all these guys that we call greats of boxing that all have something in common. They all had losses. But my whole objective and point was, just because a fighter takes a loss, that doesn't define their entire career to the point where if you lose to two notable names and you come short, you shouldn't just throw your career away and say, I'm going to retire just because you lost. It's like, nah, get back in there, train harder, and come back stronger. And we saw that. And we are still seeing that with Joseph Parker. You know, he might take a loss, but he comes back more determined and better and better every time. And I think right now, in this day and era, it's just too convenient to call somebody the greatest for fighting a couple of notable names. A person can fight three or four big names, maybe win three of the four big fights, and everybody's saying that they're the best ever, or they're going to be the next coming of Ali, for instance. And I'm like, I have no problem with a person claiming to be the best if indeed they were out here fighting the best. I don't mind you even taking a loss, because to me, most people that lose is because they actually are fighting people that are not going to be an easy cakewalk. Certain fighters pick and choose opponents that suit their style. And in boxing, there's a lot of different styles. There are some fighters that have certain fighters number, certain styles that certain fighters can't figure out. Um, and it's not that that fighter is may not even be the a top tier opponent. They just might have a style that's confusing for that opponent. So an opponent can look and see, or might fight that guy one time, come up short, and doesn't want to rematch him because they can't figure out or break down the mechanics of the style of that fighter. You know, there's a lot of fine details in boxing. And I like the fighters that are willing to take the true challenges, that are willing to roll the dice for real and put their no loss on the line, knowing that they may take that first loss in boxing. I commend the people to do that. They're not cherry picking. They're willing to fight the best of this division, and they're willing to fight the guys in their prime in this day and age. Um, so let's also talk about the fight last night, the rematch with Foster and Conseca, Constanceau. Constanceau versus Foster 2. The first fight was a back and forth fight. You know, both fighters threw combinations, but Foster did a little bit more. He stayed a little bit more busier in the first fight. But in the end, he ended up losing a decision, a very controversial decision, and he lost. And there was a lot of uproar about him losing. Well, that led to the fight last night. Last night was part two to pick up where they left off in the first fight. It was somewhat similar, the back and forth. But the better combinations and the slightly busier fighter was Foster once again. The guy who lost in the first fight, who should have won, was able to win this fight in the rematch, rightfully so. In a very, very tight fight. A lot of people felt like Foster won the first fight, so the fact that he won the rematch, a lot of people said it's not necessary for a trilogy because he should have never lost the first fight to begin with. So technically, in their minds, they felt like he won both fights. I tend to agree with that with that sentiment that it's really not worth a trilogy because both fights were tight, and the first fight wasn't some people say it's a robbery. Uh, Let me know your opinion. Every fight is not a robbery because you lose. Sometimes it's just a tight fight that can go either way. But in the first fight with Constanceau and Foster in the chat, if you saw the first fight, was that a robbery or was it just a close fight in your opinion that went the wrong way? Just let me know your opinion. But definitely last night, Foster won as he should. And, I know that had to be a good feeling for him, his training camp, his trainers, and everything, because he won that first fight. He definitely last night got the win that he long deserved. And here soon on November 15th, we will see a sanctioned fight that is not, to my understanding, is not a exhibition fight. It's actually a sanctioned fight with legendary boxer Mike Tyson versus the YouTuber up and coming boxer Jake Paul. There's mixed emotions about it. A lot of the legends of boxing, I would say I'll probably say about 75% of them are like, okay, Mike still has it. He can do it. But then you have that 25 or 30% that are like, Mike's too old. We don't want to see him get hurt. We don't want to see him risk this at the age of like 57, 58. Then you have some different pundits and different YouTube channels and boxing channels that are saying they don't want to see Mike Tyson at that age in the ring. But Mike Tyson himself is very, very confident. And Mike Tyson is just Mike Tyson. He's who he is. He has a fighting spirit within him. And he's been training very, very hard for this fight. If you go on YouTube and look up his footage, he's been training very, very diligently for this Jake Paul fight. And the ticket sales were crazy. I'm pretty sure it'll be a sellout event for November 15th. Now with Jake, I want to say in his career, he only fought like maybe one or two real boxers. Um, Most of the guys he fought were MMA, ex MMA fighters. So when he's fighting Mike Tyson, although he's fighting an older guy, he's fighting a true boxer who has been boxing from his teenage years, all his life. And Mike Tyson has muscle memory. He has a lot of power. He's very dangerous, um, deceptive. It's something that Jake Paul has never seen. Of all the MMA ex fighters he's fought, nobody has the skill set defensively, offensively that Mike Tyson has. So Mike Tyson is going to bring something to the table that Jake Paul has never seen. And I think it's going to catch him off guard because normally people can feel around that first round. But whenever you fight Mike Tyson, knowing how Mike is, he's not going to give Jake Paul the opportunity to establish a jab. He's coming right in there trying to hit him in the rib cage. You know, he's going to go in there and break down Jake Paul. And I say within the first couple rounds, it should be a wrap, most likely. Now, if Jake Paul somehow could survive an onslaught by an older Mike Tyson, he has a chance to get him in deep waters in the late rounds, being that he has youth and probably more stamina, that he will be able to catch Mike slipping as he might let his guard down a little bit more if he's fatiguing. But from my understanding, it's going to be 2 minute rounds. So it won't be like the normal 3 minute rounds. So being 2 minute rounds is better for Mike Tyson because, of course, he's older. So he'll be able to get more rest in between a shorter round period. But he does so much within 2 minutes that, and he has the type of power that he can work with 2 minutes. And at any given time, he lands that uppercut, that hook, even a jab from Mike Tyson. It could be lights out for Jake Paul. So if you're in the chat room, let me know what you think about Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Are you going to watch it? Are you in favor of it? What is your opinion on those two? Hey, what's up, y'all? I see you, fam. Down south. Cuzzo, I see you. I appreciate you always showing your support. Because I'm gonna get you on here soon. Uh Cousin Bobo, I'm gonna get you on here soon, man. Um yeah, I agree, Jason, man. I'm reading your comment here, your chat. It was a robbery, you say, for Foster. Yeah, I mean he pretty much did uh in that first fight, he did a lot more than he did in the rematch. So he definitely had a wider gap in that first fight to where I can see the word robbery being used in that sense, for sure. Okay, you gonna watch that Jake Paul, cuzzo? We might have to watch it together, man. Um, and then maybe we can jump on the podcast together if you're free, and we can talk about the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, the whole fiasco with that. Um, I also want to talk a little bit, just touch about these younger fighters like Keyshawn Davis, uh, Abdullah Mason, up and coming young guys that maybe had 11 fights, 8 fights, 12 fights. I'm happy to see the up and coming young fighters of this era. My only thing to them is consistency. They need to fight a little bit more, and they need to fight, especially being so young. These guys in their 20s and some of these guys 18, 19. They need to be fighting 3 fights a year, like maybe a fight every 3 to 4 months. They're getting so rusty fighting once a year or once every 6 months. Back in Mike Tyson's era, and even before his era, it wasn't nothing for a fighter to have 6 to 8 fights in one year. Could you imagine fighting 6 or 8 fights in one year? And that was back before all the technology and all the, up to date technology we have in today's world. So back then, their healing process to heal after a fight, it probably took a lot longer than what it does now because you have all the different modern equipment, the best state of the art medication and care, things like that. So now I think the period to rest up and get well after a fight is a lot quicker in today's world than it was back in the 1980s and the 1970s, back at that time. So, okay, you said you're gonna be tuned into it too, Cuzzo. That's what's up. Yeah, that Mike Tyson. A lot of people who don't even watch boxing as much, they're going to tune into Mike Tyson because Mike Tyson is a household name when it comes to boxing. When you hear your Mike Tysons or your Muhammad Ali's and your Evander Holyfield's, certain names are big names to where they're going to bring that attraction, and they're going to get buns in those seats. They're going to get the eyes on those televisions and everything all around the world. So let me see what else I got here. Okay, so here coming up in January, speaking of Keyshawn Davis, he's going to be fighting in January against Lamo. And I believe Lamo is from Mexican background or Latin background. And he looks like a very serious fighter. From the footage I can see of him, he's has decent speed. He puts pressure on his opponent. Now, Keyshawn is young. He has slick foot movement. He has decent hand speed. I think this will be a good test for him. I think it will. Because when you're fighting a lot of the Mexican style fighters, they are very, very, majority of them have very, very good chins. It takes a whole lot to put a dent in their armor. And it's always been that way when you think about it. Like Andy Ruiz, a great chin. Oscar De La Hoya, a good chin. A lot of those guys have very, very good chins, and they come on the front foot, putting pressure on their opponent. And they don't give you a lot of time to set up anything, and they're trying to set the pace. So I think in that first round, it might be a fill out round for Keyshawn, but I think Lamo is going to come and set his pace on establishing maybe body shots, trying to find his range, and he's going to come right on in at Keyshawn. So it's going to be something to see how Keyshawn reacts to somebody who's putting pressure on him early in the fight. If he can make adjustments within the first round or by the second round on what he's going to do to try to decode the style of a fighter who's putting pressure on him. So I look forward to seeing Keyshawn Davis more. Hopefully soon we'll be seeing more of Abdullah Mason. And hopefully we'll be seeing Tank Davis soon. 1 second it's on, 1 second it's off. The fight with him and Lamont Roach Jr. So we'll see what happens, man. I mean, I keep hearing the fight's off again, then I hear it's on again. So it's one of them things we gotta just see what happens on that day. If they step in the ring on that day, then we know it's on. Otherwise, you know, we'll just see what else is going on. It's also was brought to my attention by somebody in the group chat and on FB that one of the oldest promoters still alive from here in Ohio, Don King, is trying to reach out to His Excellency Turkey Alashate, and he's trying to ink some type of deal so he can get his stable of fighters, um, which I think he still has Adrian Broner as one of his fighters from here in Cincinnati, and trying to get a relationship built with him to get back on the market and in the big limelight of boxing. So, what do you think about that? Do you think that that relationship will come to fruition? Don King and His Excellency Turkey Alashate. What do you think about that? Um, that's interesting for sure. So it's a lot going on, in the sport of boxing. The good thing is the men's was put there for Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn, that they could put away their differences and come on one accord, and now they're working together for the better future of boxing. And with the help of Turkey Alashate, they're happen to they're they're able to make these fights happen in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Not only in the Middle East, but they're having big fights over here in America. So hopefully that means in the future there'll be a few more headline fights here in America uh, with the backing of His Excellency. So just be on the lookout if you're a boxing fan on the latest trending topics. Speaking of Shakur Stevenson, uh, hey, what's going on? Hopefully he's setting up a fight here very, very soon. I know he had a lot to say by me looking on YouTube and different social media. He pretty much said Kid Austin was food, pretty much saying that he was lunch. So that was kind of funny. Um, but I mean, in all fairness, I think that Schoolfield has a lot to learn. He's still developing. So I think it's a little early for him to jump and try to fight the guys that are a level ahead of him only because of experience. You know what I'm saying? We saw that with, well, I don't know if this is the best example, but like Canelo Alvarez, he's a vet, but then he fought the younger Jaime Mugia. I think it was more or less a veteran who knew all the tricks in the trade of boxing versus a young up and coming fighter who wasn't as seasoned. And he can learn a lot from fighting Canelo that he can take to whoever he fights next. You know what I'm saying? So Jaime Munguia actually being able to go the distance with Canelo would benefit him. And hopefully, whoever he fights next, he'll bring what he learned in that fight to his next upcoming fight. But pretty much for all these boxers, the main thing I can say is just stay on your grind and stay consistent. Just make sure you're trying to have a fight every 3 to 4 months. That way, you're not getting ring rust, and you can stay fresh. All right, so I appreciate all the viewers out here and everybody who was in the chat showing love. Much love to you, and we'll be back here next week, U.S. Standard Time, 6 p.m. So make sure you hit the bell notification. Make sure you hit the like button, and make sure you subscribe and tell a friend or two to also subscribe to Ring Walk Boxing Podcast. In the description area, you will see the link for merch in the YouTube area, description area. And like I said, check me out on all my platforms. The Twitter just started, so we're gonna get it bubbling here soon. So as always, much love, peace, and I'll catch you on the next round.